Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
So, MJ, did you happen to notice it was just a little bit quiet in the locker room during media availability this afternoon? A little bit more quiet than normal.
I didn't really notice. No? I was actually walking around trying to talk to as many players as I could.
So you didn't notice that there was no yelling and screaming from one side of the locker room that normally is yelling and screaming?
Well, when you bring it up, you're referring to Trey Boston?
Yeah, I didn't see Boston in the locker room today.
When I was leaving the locker room, I did see him coming out of the weight room.
I walked out, and there's normally there's always one voice you hear, and it's Trey Boston, and it's great because he's so energized all the time, win or lose or whatever's going on. But it was just missing, and I walked out, and I was like, you know what? I didn't see Trey Boston. That's why I didn't hear a lot of yelling and screaming.
Yeah, I really didn't pick up on that.
Good guy, very good guy.
Yes, and it's time for him for another interception. But the Cardinals usually they'll have their players go out and do community events on Tuesdays, and it probably doesn't get discussed enough, considering how they volunteer their time. When he sat down with the kids and read a book with them.
Milk and cookies.
I mean, it was fascinating. It was almost like he was telling the story without even reading the book, and they were just so gravitated to him, watching him talk and, go through the book and having fun with them. So, we don't see a lot of personality behind the face mask, but they got a lot of really good guys on this team.
Go to azcardinals.com to find out that was rock, paper, scissors, I believe, that Trey Boston read to the kids. It's very, very good, and the Cardinals do it every Tuesday during the season. All right, it is a Wednesday edition of Cards Cover 2. Let's take off and tell you what's ahead on the show. We've got some poetry for you, and no, neither I nor MJ wrote it. We play the numbers game. We also have your exclusive ticket inside the Arizona Cardinals Film Room. This week's feature is a blockbuster. And, of course, your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2 with the number 2 to get involved in the show here this afternoon. First, the news of the day, and I'm just going to read the first sentence from Darren Urban's article on azcardinals.com. For those counting at home, the number is now 0, as in 0 Cardinals offensive linemen left playing in 2018 that were part of the original starting lineup heading into training camp. And that, MJ, is all you really need to know about the season the Cardinals are having this 2018, at least on the offensive end, because, yes, the Cardinals today placed left tackle DJ Humphries on injury reserve. He's got an ongoing knee issue, and it was best, according to head coach Steve Wilkes, to just kind of shut him down. So he is now joined Mike Iupati, A.Q. Shipley, and Justin Pugh on IR. And remember, Andre Smith was released, so there are your 5 starting offensive linemen heading into training camp. And now all 5 are either on the shelf or not here.
Yeah, you normally see, maybe a log jam at a certain position. But in this case, I think they played, 4 left tackles last year.
It's been an issue the last couple of seasons.
3 quarterbacks, and I think the year that Evan Mathis went down, they played 5 guards. It's interesting how a certain position earlier with, Buda Baker missing some time and Boston missing some time. So, it's part of the sport. It's a gladiator sport. It's a physical sport. You're never going to avoid it, and you just don't know when injuries are going to occur. And the Cardinals, they've been plucking guys off practice squad. I mean, I literally need a roster now when I go into the locker room.
Yeah, it is a new mix of players, guys leaving, going on IR, and guys coming in to fill those players. And, of course, some of those players like Jeremy Vunovich going down, who was called in to replace an offensive lineman, and he goes out, and you just kind of churn the roster. It's unfortunate, though, because it's injury and not performance.
Yeah, as for Humphries, I mean, he hasn't played a full season. Obviously, he redshirted his first year here, and I think he learned a lot from that, and it was motivation. A couple years ago, he played 13 games, and he was dealing with some concussions, so they shut him down there. But the Cardinals picked up his 5th-year option, so now it's a matter of how does he play next year, because I do think they could possibly address the offensive line in the first round, and usually it's an offensive tackle, and maybe he comes in and plays right tackle for the first year, and then you really got a good situation if Humphries can stay healthy, and then you throw possibly a draft pick, worst case scenario, Corey Cunningham over there. So, DJ's just got to be available on the field, and it will go a long way if he wants to get a long-term deal with the Cardinals.
Here's your projected starting offensive line.
Let me write this down.
On Sunday, as the Cardinals will host the Detroit Lions. Left tackle, Corey Cunningham. Left guard, Colby Gossett. Center, Mason Cole. Right guard, Ode Abushi. And right tackle, Will Holden. Those 5 players are the 5 that ended the game in Green Bay. And for Josh Rosen, yeah, it is a concern, but you can't be worried about who's up front protecting him.
I mean, this is the first I've seen of sort of an NFL offensive line, so it's kind of all I've got to really go off of. But, I mean, they've been battling their butts off up front. I mean, there's not really been a distinctive change in the amount of time I've had in the pocket. I mean, they're playing really hard and playing pretty well. I mean, I ran the ball for 180-something yards. I'd like to say I contributed to that. But no, I mean, there's not really much of a drop-off. They're playing really well. So we got a really good rookie class overall, playing a lot of guys. And I think it's a testament to sort of how hard everyone's still competing.
Cardinals now have 14 players on IR, 6 of them offensive linemen. Olsen Pierre was added on Tuesday. And by the way, we also know about Christian Kirk going IR. He tweeted late Monday that his foot surgery was a success. Then went on Instagram and thanked the fans for all their support. Quote, "I'll be back in 2019 to give you the summary. Thank you for all your thoughts and prayers." Larry Fitzgerald also went on Instagram to offer his support for Christian Kirk, saying, quote, "You have a destiny on this team, and that destiny will not be stopped by this minor setback." Later added, quote, "Stay focused and strong. We are all with you and expecting great things from you," unquote. So, again, not something that number 11 has to do, but it shows you on their connection, not even this season, but even going back to when Christian Kirk was young and at Saguaro High School. So, high praise from Larry Fitzgerald.
Was Larry Fitzgerald passing the torch right in that Instagram post?
I don't want to go that far. I mean, I understand where you're going.
I think.
Oh, I'm like next season.
No, just in the future.
Yes.
I mean, we all know when you draft a guy in the first round in Josh Rosen, he's going to be here for a long time, and then you draft a guy like Christian Kirk, and we've talked about this rookie class at length, and rightfully so. They're getting major reps. So this is only going to help these guys in the future.
Absolutely. It has certainly been a busy couple of days for the Cardinals since the win in Green Bay. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, roster moves galore. In fact, the Cardinals adding 2 new offensive linemen, 8-year veteran Joe Barksdale, who was released by the Chargers this week. He is now on the active roster. And Reese Odeombo, he was added from the Colts practice squad. Hope I got that last name correct. I'll have to practice that one. But 14 total transactions since Monday, trying to replace guys that have gotten hurt, and then also churning the practice squad as well to see if there's some guys that maybe can't help this season, but certainly going into 2019 and beyond.
Yeah, and you take a look at a guy like Will Holden. I mean, yeah, he was here before, and considering they brought in a new offensive line coach in Ray Brown, they still went back to some of their assignments on the offensive line, so he was able to get released from the practice squad with the Saints on a Tuesday. He's been on the practice field on Wednesday, and he's starting on the right side of the line. And so that's just one position. You need some continuity, but in fairness to the offensive side of the ball, when it comes to the players and coaches, they've adapted. We're seeing more 6- and 7-man protections. Now, there is a drawback to that. You don't have as many wide receivers going out for passes, but the main thing is you have to protect Josh Rosen and allow him to get some throws down the field. And so it's still a work in progress, but that's one unit you need to have some continuity and chemistry, and unfortunately, injuries are part of the game.
Absolutely. And speaking of injuries, let's talk about what happened at practice, at least during the 20 minutes of availability on Wednesday, the first practice of the week, and 3 players did not practice: Budda Baker, Dayon Buchanan, and Larry Fitzgerald, though Fitz was simply a vet day off, and he'll be back on the field on Thursday. Baker, though, still dealing a little bit with a knee. I think he'll be okay. He did play on Sunday in Green Bay, but got hurt and then returned. Dayon Buchanan, though, still bothered by that chest, and we'll have to see his progress through the rest of the week.
Yeah, and luckily, Hassan Reddick's playing really well. I think that he's found a role in this defense moving forward. And what can you say about Gerald Hodges, a veteran player? You know, like when they went out last year and got Josh Bynes, and then we'll possibly see a guy like Zeke Turner maybe play a little bit more in the box. Last game, only one snap there, but we know that they want to play their nickel and dime defense, and that's when you want to get your playmakers on the field.
And we've been talking about Zeke Turner, or you specifically, for several weeks now, and the anticipation was that he was going to see some more reps, didn't. And one, it's a little bit disappointing just because we want to see him out there, you and I do, and I'm sure there's others out there defensively, but it also is a credit to how well Hodges played and Reddick played at Lambeau Field that they didn't really need a Zeke Turner.
And I also think we got to give credit to the rotation on the defensive line. I mean, they're going with Rodney Gunter and Corey Peters, and then you can bring in a guy like Robert Kemdici, and then unfortunately Olsen Pierre's on the shelf right now, and then Benson Mayowa, they can slide him in there. So, and then you look at the defensive ends between Chandler Jones and obviously Marcus Golden. So I think that's where it started, and it allowed the linebackers to come up and scrape and make some tackles. Again, the second leading tackler in the previous game against the Packers was Antoine Bethea. Now, he was playing a little bit more in the box, but you don't want your secondary to lead you in tackles, so it has to be somebody in the front seven, and in that case it was Hodgins.
Couple of notes on the Lions, and we'll go further into the matchup on Friday. But the Lions did not have a practice. They conducted a walkthrough, but some names to pay attention that did not participate. Kerryon Johnson, their rookie running back, he's got a knee and has not played the past 2 weeks. And then linebacker Devon Kennard, the local product out of Phoenix Desert Vista High School, he's dealing with a hip, got hurt last week against the Rams, but that's a key offensive weapon and a key defensive player that right now are on the injury report for the Lions.
Yeah, and the Lions are actually going to fly out here on Friday. So they're going to be in the Valley. They'll arrive Friday evening. They'll do a walkthrough maybe at the hotel or somewhere else, and obviously they'll get ready to play on Sunday afternoon, 2:25 at State Farm Stadium. You know, Kenny Galloway was on the injury report. He's basically it sounds like Matthew Stafford's trying to turn him into Calvin Johnson. That's not going to happen now. Galloway had some nice catches in the Cardinals opener last year in Detroit. Unfortunately, they lost that football game, but he's a guy. I would put Patrick Peterson on him and then just hope that somebody else doesn't step up. Now, Kerryon Johnson, Adrian Wilson was scouting that game last week for the Cardinals, and he was out there for pregame stuff. So that tells me he's getting a little bit closer, but there's speculation out of Detroit they may want to shut him down. So now you're going to have to deal with LeGarrette Blount, and he's a really good short yardage guy. You got to make sure you gang tackle him because he can break tackles, get to that second layer. And then you look at Theo Riddick. He can be more used as an option coming out of the backfield in a screen game. They lose T.J. Lang on the offensive line. So Matthew Stafford on the year, 18 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and he's actually turned the football over in the second half. Now Marvin Jones is on the injured reserve list, and they traded Colton Tate. So and Jim Bob Cooter, there's a reason why Matt Patricia wanted to keep that offense intact. But obviously if they had Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, and a healthy Kenny Galladay, then you got some weapons. And they don't really they utilize the tight end, but he's more used as a blocker. And then they have that running back Zenner where they sprinkle in a little bit. So curious to see what kind of game plan they come up against the Cardinals, considering the Cardinals did a good job last week when it came to containing the run, and Aaron Rodgers threw 50 passes.
Cardinals and Lions, 2:25 is the kickoff from State Farm Stadium. That means 9:30 pregame coverage begins on the Arizona Cardinals radio network. And if you want to know where to watch, listen, and follow the game, just go to azcardinals.com/GameCentral. That's azcardinals.com/GameCentral. As we continue here on a Wednesday edition of Cards Cover 2 from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, of course, broadcasting in our Bose QC35s. We heard from Rosen earlier, and he referenced his run, 33 yards, happened in the third quarter, the longest run by a Cardinals quarterback since Jake Plummer.
Wow.
Had a 34-yard run at San Francisco back in 2002. But the Rosen run, it was, dare we say, poetic.
Please slow down. Take things easy. Going too fast makes one feel queasy. No one can enjoy a life that is too fast. Sometimes it is better to be late and come in last than to go full speed all day long. When you go too fast, things can go wrong. A slow walk is better than haste. You have more time for things of your taste. Remember the tortoise and the hare. Do not be in a hurry to do more than your share. The thing I am trying to say, please heed. It is easier to go slowly than at full speed.
Just some great work there by Tim Delaney and Jesse Aranda, the Cardinals broadcasting department, and the timing of that poetry to get the high five between Rosen and Fitzgerald. And by the way, Rosen did like it, and he tweeted about it as well. So one of those plays, and we'll talk about the other play that everyone is focused on from Sunday, but that was, one, it was an important play. Two, it did show some of the athleticism of Rosen, and he did joke about it earlier today about the fumbling out of bounds. You got to make sure you keep control of the football, and also, more importantly, slide. Next time, slide.
Yeah, and the way the new rule is, you can go head first or feet first, and they can't touch you. Now, some guys are going to come in close, and hopefully they don't get the penalty and get a targeting penalty or helmet to helmet, but he's going to have to learn how to slide. And if you played baseball in your life, you learn how to slide at some point. I know that in spring training they'll bring out some sawdust, and you got to learn how to slide. I don't know what you can do. And anytime a quarterback's wearing a knee brace, you don't want to slide because you can actually hurt your knee again. So he'll figure it out. And the main thing is you just don't want to take those hits in the open field. And he obviously felt that he was going to get the first down and more. And just the way he started running and then stumbling, But you got to protect the ball, though. That's the main thing.
Yeah, protect yourself.
That was well produced.
It was a run, though, that helped set up Chase Edmonds' second touchdown of the day. His first score, which tied the game at 7, is this week's Call of the Game.
Pegado a su centro, Rosen saca el balón, se lo entrega a su corredor, encuentra un carril espectacular. Chase Edmonds se cuela en la zona. Touchdown, Arizona. El primero del novato Chase Edmonds en su carrera en la NFL.
Gabriel Trio on the Arizona Cardinals Spanish radio broadcast. And again, great blocking by the offensive line because, I don't know, maybe you even been able to slip into the end zone on that run. No?
I wouldn't go that far.
All right. Edmonds, all smiles when he met the media on Monday. And he, like a lot of us, and we heard from some of you on Sunday on Cardinal Talk, he was curious how the team would respond, how they would come out, especially going on the road, Lambeau Field, heavy underdog, and a week after losing to the Chargers by 35 points. Just what would the Cardinals do on Sunday? And, well, we all found out.
I'm a fan of football, so, I remember growing up, and when you have teams in certain situations that we were in during those losses where the word tanking starts coming up. And then for me, as a rookie, I don't know how it's going to go, so I was eager to see how it is in our locker room. We have great leaders, though, man, great leadership, and there is no tanking when you're in the National Football League and you're a professional. You don't believe in that. Guys work too hard. It's too hard to even make a team in this league to sit here and say, okay, let's play for the number 1 pick. You go out there, you compete. Everyone here is a professional. Everyone gets paid, and that's our job, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Now, I get fans want to see this team improve and believe that a high draft pick, a better opportunity to get your guy with more losses. But and we were in here on Tuesday there in the Red Sea Report, and Bertrand Berry, we played that soundbite from Edmonds, and B-Train called it disrespectful when people start talking about tanking because you're a professional and you have a job to do, and it's no different than you and I, MJ, or anyone else out there watching or listening here on Cards Cover 2. Why try to fail? And that's what tanking is, trying to fail. I don't get it. I understand that there are people that have a different opinion, and they voiced it on Sunday afterwards. But I'll say this, and I talked about it on Tuesday. Larry Fitzgerald, Cardinals in 2004, projected to have the number 1 pick. They beat the Vikings on the last day of the regular season. They slipped to 3. They landed Larry Fitzgerald. I think they're all happy about that. We're all happy about that. Then you look at some of the top players out there. Todd Gurley, Khalil Mack, J.J. Watt, Aaron Donald. They weren't top 4 picks, top 5 picks. You can find good guys. It's just now making sure you select the right guy.
Yeah, my theory on that is, first of all, these guys are putting their bodies in harm's way, and they signed up for it, and they're well paid and compensated. But you're not going to go out there to some guys will try not to get hurt because maybe they're going to be a free agent. But I always say this, the eye in the sky doesn't lie, and that's the film. Regardless if you're going to be on this roster next year or some other team, the first thing they're going to do is look back at the last 8 games, and they'll look at your cut-ups and how you performed against certain players. But these guys are putting their body on the line. Do you think they're going to just roll over? And let's not worry about something we can't control. I mean, when we get to the end of the season, we'll tally it up and how many wins they have and where they stand. And listen, as you pointed out, great point. All those guys you mentioned, they weren't drafted besides Larry in the top 3. It's a crapshoot, and you really don't know until you're on the clock and how much time is and who's on the board. I mean, that dictates, do you trade down? Do you trade up? Listen, hopefully they find a good player because they got to stack back-to-back good years of draft because we're seeing the fruits of the labor when it comes to this rookie class right now, and including undrafted free agents. So they did a good job last year. I think the 2015 class is going to show up between Humphreys, Golden, David Johnson, and Rodney Gunter. Unfortunately, J.J. Nelson didn't pan out there, at least for now. So they got, but that's how you build the belly of your football team. But let's not worry about things during the season. Those are off-season conversations.
Cardinals won it 20-17 in Green Bay. One last time as we go inside the numbers, a look back at the Cardinals' victory at Lambeau Field.
Inside the Numbers, presented by La Mesa RV, where you can experience life. There was much to like about the signature win in what has been a difficult season for the 2018 Cardinals. In terms of the series between the two clubs, it was historic. Arizona won in Green Bay for the first time since 1949, before Lambeau Field even existed. In more recent history, its significance was underscored by the fact that Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers entered the contest with a 16-1 home record in December. When taking the weather into account, the win was remarkable. Prior to Sunday, the last time the Cardinals won a game when the temperature was 24 degrees or below was in December of 1983 in Philadelphia. The defense rose to the occasion, forcing Green Bay to a 3 of 14 performance on third down and a season-high 7 punts. Linebacker Gerald Hodges finished with a career-high 12 solo tackles, and safety Antoine Bethea added 10 tackles to bolster his team-high total to 107 tackles on the season. Chandler Jones recorded his 40th sack as a member of the Cardinals, reaching that milestone in fewer games than any other player in franchise history. Offensively, Arizona rushed for a season-high 182 yards and 2 touchdowns, with a variety of contributors. David Johnson led the way with 69 yards. Chase Edmonds added 53 and the 2 scores. Josh Rosen galloped to a career-long 33-yard run, the longest by an Arizona QB since Jake Plummer, and Christian Kirk chipped in with a 23-yard jaunt. The effort was largely behind a patchwork offensive line, which at one point consisted of 2 rookies and 3 players that were acquired in the last 40 days. Trailing 10-7 in the third quarter, Rosen led the Cards to points on 3 of their final 4 drives in the comeback win. Playing in his first game for the Cardinals, kicker Zane Gonzalez notched the go-ahead points on his second 44-yard field goal of the game with 1:41 remaining in the game. It was Gonzalez's first NFL victory after going 0-17-1 during his tenure with the Browns. Perhaps the most promising number from Sunday? 10. 10 rookies saw action for Big Red, including 4 offensive starters. Hopefully a building block for a brighter future soon to come.
And 7 total played on the offense for the Cardinals in Sunday's game against the Green Bay Packers as we continue here on Cards Cover 2 from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, broadcasting in our Bose QC35s. Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki still to come. We'll get to your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2. Some other numbers from Sunday, and that is the number 3, Larry Fitzgerald with 3 catches. The third, of course, we all know about, but Fitz now just 1 catch away from surpassing Jerry Rice for the most catches with 1 single team in NFL history. My guess is that he'll land that catch on Sunday against the Detroit Lions. Of course, the last catch, I should say, number 3 on Sunday, well, that certainly was the play of the game.
2 receivers right, 1 left. Johnson in the backfield with Rosen. I would just hand it off here. Shotgun snap. Nope. Rosen back to throw. Moves to his right. Being chased again. Rosen looking. Throws deep. Near side. Diving attempt by Fitz. Did he catch it? He did! Larry Fitzgerald, the Hall of Famer, may have just saved the day for the Cardinals. A gain of 32 yards on 3rd and 23. Fitz with a diving catch.
I cannot believe what I just saw from Fitz. He caught the ball. He got his arm underneath that.
How about that throw by Rosen and that catch by Larry Fitzgerald? Wolfie caught it with one arm.
He got it underneath. Do you believe it? I cannot believe you couldn't slide a piece of paper under the pig. And somehow he got his arm under it.
By the way, would that be the reverse pass factor, considering he started that play calls by saying, I would hand the ball off, and of course the Cardinals threw the ball. Let's dive deeper into that play as we are joined by the director, Kyle Odegard, here as we go inside the Arizona Cardinals film room. The situation, Kyle, 3rd and 23 from their own 12-yard line, 4:35 remaining in the game. That is tied at 17.
Yeah, it's great that Dave said that, because that's what I asked Will Holden, the right tackle, about, hey, when you go into the huddle, are you expecting them to just call something conservative, try to get 10 yards, get off the goal line a little bit and punt? But he was like, hey, we got a bunch of rookies playing. We're having a losing season. Why don't we go for it and try to make a play? Obviously, Byron Leftwich called something where all 4 receivers basically just ran vertical routes, and then Josh Rosen said he just went back. There was no set plan. He said he was looking at Ricky Seals-Jones and Larry Fitzgerald originally in the pocket. He was hoping that one of those 2 guys might spring open a little bit if the safeties got too wide on him, and he was going to try to fit it in there. But clearly it didn't work on schedule, and at that point Josh Rosen had to get out of the pocket, which is a good thing that happened, because it extended the play a little bit. A big problem when it's 3rd and 23 is just getting the guys past the first down marker in rhythm, where you have to really wait a long time for them to get down there before the pass rush gets to you. So the fact that he was able to get out helped the Cardinals a lot, and it helped them that the Packers ran a stunt on the left side of the line, and the defensive tackle Kenny Clark didn't quite come back to the outside, so it allowed Josh Rosen the room to get outside. And it's something where Will Holden also did a nice job of pushing him and keeping him inside. And then Josh Rosen talked a lot about the point where he said he was motioning for Larry Fitzgerald to go to that side of the field where it was clearly open. He goes, I just point. I don't know if it does anything. I don't know if the wide receiver sees me, but it's just a natural reaction to point. And I'm not sure if Fitz saw him or not, but clearly they were on the same page. And like Dave Pasch was saying in the call, really good throw, phenomenal catch to get that ball. And then they all hurried to the line and got that next play off. Just wondering if that ball was incomplete, you don't want to let the Packers to throw a challenge flag. So they got up quickly and ran it, but Fitz said, no, I knew I caught that ball. That's my job, and I'm going to get that done.
On the pointing, it's something that we saw Aaron Rodgers do during the game, and he's done it throughout his entire career. So in that respect, Rosen, not that he's copying, but his quote was, it's a habit. I do it anyways. And to your point, the receivers are always looking back towards the line of scrimmage, but they're trying to find the quarterback. At a point, I would think you want to do something like this if you're the quarterback,
Right.
but you're pointing, and I don't know if anyone sees it, or the defense can see it too.
And the Aaron Rodgers pass to Devontae Adams for the touchdown, he did a little point too. So the point was working well for both quarterbacks in that game.
You usually see a receiver when he's wide open, he puts his arm up,
right,
so that you can see him, and then he eventually try to get the ball. But here, and Larry, obviously, he's run millions of routes. The fact that he came to that same side, was able to carry his weight and his size to get underneath that ball, because it was tight coverage on there. I mean, either Larry catches that or the ball hits the ground, and maybe we're having a different conversation based on a 3rd and 23.
Yeah, it was probably like an inch of room between the defensive back swiping for it and it getting through. And I had just written a blog the week before about off-schedule plays and how the Cardinals really hadn't converted on them Josh Rosen would get outside, and for whatever reason, the scramble drill wasn't working, and those wide receivers were just never open, and they weren't able to find the right gap in the defense. And sometimes in those situations, they can work really well because you're running around, everything's breaking down, and you can get away like we saw in this play. So it was nice for them to really come through in a scramble drill situation for the first time, and you couldn't imagine a better situation for that.
Well, and you're seeing when you're able to buy time and his ability, Rosen's ability to go outside the pocket, you're asking your defensive backs to cover receivers, and we've seen that work against the Cardinals in that game. What was it, the one play Rodgers had, 10, 11 seconds?
9.5.
And to find Devontae Adams on that sideline pass. So credit the Cardinal, or credit Rosen for buying that extra time to allow the receivers to get open. But yeah, to your point on how we started this, you're a 3rd and 23 backed up in your own 20-yard line. We need to make sure Andy Lee is not punting from the back of the end zone, and let's just gain a couple of yards. And well, they went for it.
Well, I think, when you're watching the game and you're thinking it's 3rd and 23, why they're running a screen pass, and Kyle touched on it, and that's what happens. You're just trying to get 10, 12, 14 yards. Now you're playing for field position. Now one of the bigger frustrations for me is when it's like 3rd and 9 and the receiver runs an 8-yard run and he catches the ball, and now you got to punt. So in this case, they were playing more for field position, and obviously it worked out when you're able to connect like that.
And I also think, knowing the game situation where there's about 4 minutes left in a tie game, and if you just check it down or run a screen or something and punt, you're giving the ball to Aaron Rodgers in decent field position with about 3:30 to go, plenty of time. They had timeouts, and it's a tie game. So you're feeling like Green Bay is probably going to march down and get a field goal, which I think was in Byron Leftwich's head and Steve Wilkes if he had a part in the play call. But they decided to go for it, and in those situations, it can lead to a sack or an interception or something if you force it. But they allowed Josh Rosen to try to make a play, and he did.
We're inside the Arizona Cardinals film room with Kyle Odegard, azcardinals.com/film room. For more of Kyle's great work, not only on this play, but throughout the entire season. A couple of quotes, one from Rosen and the other one from Fitzgerald. And there's 2 ways to go about this. But one, Rosen admitted to you that he underthrew the ball and then added, quote, "but it's Larry Fitzgerald. He'll figure it out," unquote. And he does, and I think, we talked about it on Monday, MJ. We've taken it for granted on Fitz just makes the unbelievable routine. And in the second quote from Larry Fitzgerald complimenting Rosen and the throw, "I wanted to make sure I made a play for him to earn his trust," unquote. You're talking about a 15-year veteran trying to earn the trust of a rookie quarterback. I don't know if there's another receiver, current or former, that would have said that about Josh Rosen, about that play specifically, because it's always, "just throw me the damn ball," as one wide receiver famously said.
And I think that's a great thing where he makes Josh Rosen feel comfortable, because like you said, a lot of receivers, whether they say it explicitly or just kind of whisper things, they want more targets, and Fitz's targets have been up and down this year, and it's great that he's such a team player, and he's out there, he's pushing Chase Edmonds on running plays and getting him extra yards. He's a really good blocker. I mean, he's doing all the little stuff that these megastars don't always do, and then he is ready in a situation like that where once he's done with his route, maybe a guy just stops and says, "Okay, play's over." But he turned his head around, saw that Rosen was scrambling, and did a great job of getting into that area.
It's just fascinating. I'm glad you had a chance to talk with Will Holden as well, because on that play, it kind of gets lost on his block. And it's not a huge block, but it's just enough. And we've talked about it here several times, that sometimes it's just a half second or an extra second that you're allowing the defense or the offense that can make the difference between a play being successful or, in this case, the Cardinals punting the ball.
And in this situation, with the offensive line's inexperience and lack of continuity, in a stunt, the guys are switching sides, and sometimes the tackle or the guard will misread it and let somebody come in free. So those guys did a nice job communicating, making sure that they both had somebody, because if that play got blown up any earlier, it really would have been tough on Rosen to escape. So, yeah, definitely props to the offensive line on that play, and really throughout the game with all the injuries that they're dealing with to be able to hold up as well as they did.
Yeah, the Cardinals right now projected to start 3 rookies on the offensive line coming up on Sunday. Glad you are here on this Wednesday edition of Cards Cover 2, Kyle, because Sunday several Cardinal players will be wearing customized cleats reflecting their commitment to charitable causes. It's the league's third annual My Cause, My Cleats, and you've got a story up on azcardinals.com regarding Rosen's cause, which is climate change. The headline is, Josh Rosen wants to save the world. The headline is great, but there is a specific reason why climate change is so important, and he's as passionate as he is about football. He is passionate about climate change.
Yeah, and the fact that he's 21 years old is just amazing to me. The type of worldview he has, realizing the dangers of what's going on in the environment, and he's specifically looking at the oceans and trying to get plastic and trash things out of the ocean and make that a better place for, you know, all the sea creatures and everything. Just try to not make it polluted. So he's a guy, like you said, very passionate about this subject, willing to talk about it with anybody. And, you know, some guys in the NFL, they don't want to talk about divisive subjects because there's inevitably going to be blowback from people that don't agree with his point of view. But he enjoys talking about it, and he told me he wants to invite the discussion, and if people disagree with him, he would much rather talk about it and understand other people's viewpoints on things than just kind of keep it, you know, underneath the table. He would rather discuss it and try to come to an understanding on what people are saying.
Yeah, great awareness on his part. Now, I sat down to the Q&A with him a few weeks ago, and I mentioned this, that he said, listen, I've dreamt of being a football player. And now obviously he started off in tennis, and then he started picking up football, and then he had a great high school career. But he said, I don't want football to just define me as a person. There's so many other things I want to do away from the field, like him going back to school and getting, finishing up his classes. He said, I'm looking forward to that, because before I would have practice and I had to skip it and I would deal with a tutor. He literally is going to go back to school and further his education for his future, regardless if he plays in the league 10 or 12 years. And that, to me, is his fat. A lot of guys talk about it, but they don't do it.
Yeah, and it was fun talking to Aaron Rodgers on a conference call, about a week ago. The fact that they were playing Green Bay timed out nicely. Mm-hmm. So asking him about Josh Rosen, those two guys have become fast friends. And it's the same thing. Aaron Rodgers enjoys looking at things beyond football. Clearly, it doesn't stop him from being a great football player, and there's plenty of time to practice and prepare. And it's not like these guys are not doing the stuff they're supposed to do for practice and to get ready for the games. They're doing all that stuff, and in their leisure time, they're going outside of football and looking at a lot of different things.
Well, I was coming to the facility yesterday, and there's Josh Rosen Tuesday getting that game plan. they had a victory.
Yeah, he's always here.
Yeah, he had a victory Monday, and he's always walking around in socks. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Maybe the cleats at some point, get tight on him. But anyways, he's here on Tuesday, and a lot of players, when you're winning, or at least you're still buying in, and I think we can see that based on performance and effort, guys want to show up here. They get the game plan, obviously, Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning. They go on the field, they do a walk-through practice, and then they obviously start to figure things out over the next couple of days. But he seems like, and we get out of here at 4:45, 5 o'clock sometimes, and he's still in the building.
Yeah. And the thing I like about him is he comes from a very educated background where his great-great-grandfather owned a publishing company, and one of his relatives was Joseph Wharton, who started the Wharton Business School at Penn. So he's got a lot of education behind him, and he uses that not only to learn about the world, but also in a football sense, where he's very intelligent, and it takes time to study and to stay locked in like that. And I think he does a good job of knowing what works, and I think his intelligence is going to be a big key in his career.
What did you think today when he said, Byron's giving me more, but he doesn't think I know? Paraphrasing.
Right.
Clearly they've changed their protection schemes. We're seeing more 6 and 7 protections, meaning you don't have as many wide receivers going out. But here's Leftwich putting a little bit more on his plate, and he does have the ability to check out of a play at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I think it's a natural progression for him. You don't want to do it too much early, and
because you don't want him thinking.
Yeah, and especially at a midseason coordinator change, you want to pull back. And Byron Leftwich talked about that a lot, not putting too much on his plate, but he realizes who he's working with, and Josh Rosen's a smart guy, so he's going to also want to push him.
Again, the headline is Josh Rosen wants to save the world. I invite everyone to go to azcardinals.com. It's really a powerful story, powerful words coming out of Rosen's mouth about climate change and realizing that when he speaks out, some people won't like it, but he's passionate about it. He's studied up on it. He drives an electric car, so he not only does he preach it, but he acts it as well. And certainly one of the many causes that the Cardinal players will be featuring on Sunday for a complete list, or at least to see the different cleats that are going to be on several feats of players on Sunday. Go to azcardinals.com and check out the photo gallery. It's the 3rd annual My Cause, My Cleats, and we'll talk more about it on Friday's Cards cover too. But right now, Kyle, you going to stick around, hear what the Bird Gang has to do? Let's sound off here on this Wednesday edition of Cards Cover 2. We'll begin with Twitter and our loyal users at Cardinals_31 wants to know which game the biggest upset this season. Bills defeating the Vikings in Minnesota, Cardinals defeating the Packers in Green Bay.
I'd have to go with Bills, just the way they did it, where they got up by 27 points or something.
And they were 17-point underdogs.
Yeah, and it was never.
And it was
close.
early in the season where the
But it was in a dome. The Cardinals had to deal with the weather.
I mean,
Kyle had to deal with the weather.
All right, we're going to make it number 2.
The way the Cardinals played was definitely impressive.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think the Buffalo one shocked everybody.
Yeah, just because, you know, they go out and spend all big money on Kirk Cousins, and it's the start of the season. I think it was week 2 or 3, and you're like, that's the beauty of the NFL. You think you know, and then you go. They play the game, and it's actually a different result.
Yeah, certainly no one expected either the Bills or the Cardinals to win those
for
games.
us, that was a signature win.
Absolutely.
They needed that.
Bird Gang sounding off as we move to Instagram. User wants to know, will Trent Sherfield get more targets now, obviously in light of Christian Kirk's injury?
I'd imagine his playing time will go up, and Chad Williams is maybe a little bit of the wild card in this scenario.
Yep.
Whether he is going to be healthy and then where he fits in, because Chad was playing a lot but didn't have huge numbers when he was out there. And does the coaching staff want to mix both of those guys in? And when you go to 3 receivers so often nowadays, that certainly I think Sherfield's going to get his shot. Chad Williams is going to get his shot, and it's a huge spot for Trent Sherfield, being an undrafted guy, just fighting to make the team when he got here, and now he had that nice catch in Green Bay. He really stretched his arm out and came away with that ball. So if you're Trent Sherfield, you're really looking at it like, hey, this is my opportunity to excel and let them know maybe I should be in this mix next year.
Curious to see if Jalen Tolliver is active. We know that J.J. Nelson, and now that Christian Kirk's on the shelf, according to the depth chart, T.J. Logan could return punts. Maybe Patrick Peterson out there if you want to get field position. So, yeah, I mean, to me, if you can get Chase Edmonds and David Johnson on the field together, I think David is a matchup nightmare if you can put him on the outside. It doesn't mean you still can't throw to Ricky Seals-Jones, Gresham, but one of these other wide receivers are going to have to step up to replace the targets and the catches from Christian Kirk.
And the more Edmonds plays and excels, that makes the defense have to watch out for him, which gives, if David's in the slot or those receivers, that's a nice combo to have, David and Chase, the way they're playing.
Certainly an opportunity for somebody on Sunday when the Cardinals take on the Lions. Last question, Instagram. What do the Cardinals need to do? And obviously this is a big picture. What do the Cardinals need to do to be a playoff contender again? We're not talking about 2018.
Okay, good. They haven't been officially eliminated,
they have not.
So the NFL loves that. They have to have another really good draft, and they have to figure out, what they want to do offensively and defensively, if it happens to be the same coordinators. So there's a lot of moving pieces, but put together a really nice draft again, stack back-to-back drafts, continue to develop this rookie class. Now, you got to think on paper the Rams are going to be the clear favorite. We always talk about the Seahawks as long as they have Carroll and Wilson. I still think the Niners are a year away. So this team should be winning more games next year, being more competitive, and hopefully learning how to finish. So it's just not one thing. It's not a quick fix. It's going to have to happen 3 ways you can improve the roster: free agency, trades, and draft. And they will work all 3 areas like they did for Chandler Jones.
And they've got flexibility with the salary cap.
Good point.
They should have a high first-round draft pick, so starting to plug some holes. I think clearly, to me, the offensive line needs to be upgraded. The wide receiver room needs to be upgraded. You do those things, and that helps Josh Rosen. And if Josh Rosen progresses, then you start talking about a pretty fast turnaround. So that's the big key to me is putting Josh Rosen in a position to succeed.
I don't disagree. Maybe they could sign a wide receiver in free agency, maybe draft one or two. I think you got to double up at a couple positions, linebacker, possibly corner. I think corner becomes a priority just because we haven't been able to find that guy opposite of Peterson. So I would say trenches, offensive line, defensive line, and then I would think corner would like 2B. Now, it all is going to depend on where you're picking, who's on the board when you're on the clock.
David Anderson acquitted himself pretty well, at least just watching it from the television as far as the other corner opposite Patrick Peterson. But I haven't talked to any coaches or anything like that as far as how he graded out, but didn't seem like there were huge plays made against him.
Yeah, I think he played well, and it's a nice little trial run for him. Quentin Rollins, Dante Johnson, 3 guys that were either high picks or starters. I think all of them have been starters in this league. So if you can find one guy and re-sign him and at least have him be an option, and like Mike said, probably go in the draft and pick somebody else. But if the board is not falling in your favor, you don't want to reach. So always having a veteran that's possible to use, I mean, that's a huge plus.
Yeah, big offseason ahead for the Arizona Cardinals. Appreciate the Bird Gang sounding off here on this Wednesday using the hashtag CardsCover2. Hashtag CardsCover2 using the number 2. And, of course, we do it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, and we'll do it again on Friday. Kyle, appreciate you hanging around here on this Wednesday edition of Cards Cover 2. Special
not Friday
thanks.
yet.
No, not Friday. I'm getting close.
That means Brandon would be in here on Fridays.
Special thanks behind the scenes, Tim Delaney, Jim Omohundro, Devin Henry, Brandon Natus, and Jesse Aranda. For Kyle Odegard, again, go to azcardinals.com. Check out his article on Josh Rosen, Mike Haas, Mike Cleats. It's worth your time. For Kyle Odegard, Mike Jurecki, I'm Craig Grialou. This has been Cards Cover 2.